5 years ago, 191 immigration detainees at a maximum security prison in Lindsay, Ontario went on hunger strike. Since those 5 years, we have organized to support those detainees, including those who have been released, and have created a campaign to support the demands of the immigration detainees. Their demands are currently an end to immigration detention, starting with a 90-day limit on immigration detention. Our methods are we assist immigration detainees inside the prison system to self-organize, as well as support their political participation on the outside. I'll start with maybe the second hunger strike that took place in the summer of 2016. So there have been 4 hunger strikes since September 2013, the last of which was in the summer of 2016, in which 55 immigration detainees on their own initially learned about the fact that hunger strike had been a tactic used by immigration detainees prior, and 55 of them in a maximum security prison were able to coordinate across different ranges. This is important because ranges aren't allowed to speak to each other. So they were able to actually get multiple ranges of all immigration detainees to coordinate and go on hunger strike on the same day. The demands at that time were to meet with Minister Ralph Goodale, to have a 90-day limit on immigration detention, to have themselves released, and to talk about legislative overhaul so that would result in an end to immigration detention. At that time, across the country, there was a massive media uproar. There was a massive surge of interest. Wherever Minister Ralph Goodale was showing up, he was being protested by Indigenous organizers in his home city of Regina, as well as in other places. And as a result of that, the Government of Canada announced an overhaul of the immigration detention system, which is $185 million put into expanding the prison system. That was accompanied by a set of consultations. What's important about these consultations is that the immigration detainee demands was that they should be consulted, and they were not. And what has happened is there has been this so-called improvement in the immigration detention system that has since then consistently shut out the voices of the people most directly affected. So we are seeing changes in detention law and policy and regulations, but the people that we work with, immigration detainees themselves, have not been, or their families, or their friends, or their children have not been part of this process. So currently we're very much calling on the federal government to focus on the issues that have been raised by the detainees themselves. One of our methods for that is to use the court system. And so we are at the Federal Court of Appeals with a case of Mr. Alvin Brown. We're an intervener. The End Immigration Detention Network is an intervener in that case, calling for constitution on a 90-day limit on detention on constitutional grounds. However, the overall political demand is that this is not something that should be dealt with at the courts at all. This is a flaw in law and policy, and then the ministers could resolve it tomorrow. So we're calling upon Minister Ralph Goodale, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, to keep their word, to bring about the real change they say, to actually make this notion that detention is not the first resort meaningful, to place a limit on immigration detention, and in many cases, and actually in all cases, to end immigration detention entirely as one step of a broader process of immigration overhaul. As was stated earlier today by immigration detainees themselves, it's not enough when they're released from prison, they also need permanent residency. So we're asking not just for an end to detention, but full permanent residency for all undocumented people in the country.